podcast. Welcome to this week's episode with Olga and Colin.
Yahoo! 17. This is the last one of November.
Oh, you're right, for sure. So lots of things going on. First of all, I wanted to give a follow-up. We talked about the Distillers live stream last week.
Or lack of live stream.
Lack of live streams for some of us. I finally got support, has supported me through this process. I did watch it. She was very nice, and we had to email a bunch of times. Finally got the access to work. So I did watch it, and it was pretty awesome. I wish I got to watch it on Halloween. My only thing was it was pretty short. I was really surprised that, and I think you told me that, but I was still surprised that it was like 15 minutes, if
15 minutes
of music. So I wish it was longer because it was good. It was a good set. It was a good sound. I wish the full band was there, if I'm being really picky, but I'm glad I finally got to watch it. So I think you can join the fan club paid version if you want to stream it at some other. I think it's available for that tier of fan club forever. To that, and I think other stuff that I don't know because I'm not in it yet.
Yeah, I agree with the same thing. Again, like I said, quickly, it was a missed opportunity to have a full awesome concert.
Yeah.
And that's it. It is what it is. And then, well, that was good news for you, but bad news moving forward.
Yeah.
ALEC BAILLIE from
Leftover
Crack has died. You know, he died and they didn't say what it was. And even 2 weeks later, they didn't really say what it was, but it seems like it was suicide just based on the press release.
Yeah. When
they put the suicide hotline number at the bottom and the substance abuse and mental health thing. And then I go on Reddit because that's where all useful, true knowledge is these days.
Right. There's no false information there ever.
No false information. And it seems it was the same there.
Okay.
It seems like it was a suicide. So that's very sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. Those were some pretty big and influential bands. He seemed like a nice guy. I've met him a couple times. I have a lot of people post, like a lot of people in the scene are really bummed about it. And it just, I don't know, I mean, for us, it's out of the blue because, I mean, you don't see any of the bands we like right now in COVID. And of course, you don't really know people personally if you don't really know them. And even, I'm sure their friends don't necessarily, were also shocked by this. So it just really sucks because that's a band I was looking forward to seeing again after COVID. And I don't even know if the band will be around. It sucks that, you know, he's not around. He had a dog. You know,
and
he had a lot of friends
suicide,
and people. Yeah.
You know, it's a preventable death.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just a punk scene thing, but it definitely in the punk scene, there's never been any push for mental health in the punk scene. I don't think, like, when I think of punk is the therapy. And I think a lot of people, that's as far as they're willing to take it, but I mean, it's not enough. And I mean, I would say you need to be able to talk to people, and just being a punk is not going to be enough when you got serious problems. And definitely, you know, seeking treatment and therapy, I think it's totally a good idea. And I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
You know, even in my life, it was never brought therapy. Getting mental health was not something that was promoted as something to do. That was just like, that was an extreme thing for people with extreme problems. Like they can't.
That was the perception. It wasn't.
Yeah, and that's how I was raised to be. So it was always like, if you had a problem, no matter how big or how small it was, you know, you just deal with it on your own. And if you don't think of it as a problem, it's not a problem. You're making up your own problems. You don't actually have any problems. It's all in your head.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how I was raised. And I think a lot of people were raised the same way. And then you realize years later, it's completely toxic. You have a hard time communicating with other people. You got all this you got your whole life history stored up in your brain, and you're like having a brain explosion that you don't even know about. It comes out in the world in unpredictable ways, and that's like then the substance abuse starts becoming a problem. You get into arguments with people, you can't keep relationships, and it's all this stuff that just happens because you know, we're not taking care of our minds on a basic level of just being therapeutic about taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Our
And I mean,
minds.
and also just a lot of creative people in general tend to be depressed. Like that's all, you know, that's always been something that people talk about. And then also a lot of people in punk and other sort of alternative scenes, it does seem to, for whatever reason, it does attract people that are, you know, not exactly the sunshine walking into a room. And so a lot of them have really tough childhoods or other traumas and issues they've dealt with. And a lot of us don't have access to healthcare. And a lot of people have more sort of gig jobs, or they're touring and they don't have insurance. Like it's really hard to get access to it, even if you realize that's something you want or need. It's not affordable or reachable or attainable for a lot of people. So that's the reality of it.
That is a huge problem. It is a huge problem. And, you know, different municipalities, depending on what city you live in or what county, there are things available. So I would just encourage people to at least try to find something.
Yeah.
Take a look. Don't give up before you've tried. You know, I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah. And it's also probably harder right now because everybody's dealing with a lot of stress and all kinds of issues with this year. And so it is probably harder than ever to get an appointment, even if you get through all the other hoops to get yourself in a situation where you can even make one. So, you know, really it sucks. But we'll put the contact information, those hotlines in our liner notes.
Well, depending on where you work, you can get a referral from your HR department. Sometimes they might hook you up with something. Maybe you get a couple of sessions in a therapy. I mean, that's how they do it at my job. And I tell you, it works really good for me. So again, there's hard to find options sometimes. It's certainly not easy, but it's, man,
but there's
getting help.
A lot of times there's a hotline, or there's a pro bono, or whatever, the income-based places that charge you based on your income or things like that.
And if let's say you're in a good enough spot where you can actually just afford to just go straight up, I mean, I would recommend just, hey, go do it, go check it out, do some sessions. I done it, it's fine, you know, cool. And then more bad news, just because I have to mention this word out loud, Trapped. I don't want to give them too much time because I hate them.
I don't either, but I just thought it's just kind of, I don't even know what to say, but they've been kicked off of several social media platforms, and I haven't spent too much time digging into it, but they also started like promoting Proud Boys and all kinds of things. And it's like, at this point, I'm like, are they just trying to stay relevant? Because nobody has thought of them in like they're a local band from where we live.
Los Gatos. So
that explains it right there.
I thought the same. I'm like, this cannot be real. They cannot be promoting Proud Boy stuff. They're just trying to retain fans or stay relevant or get press.
Which they did get press.
And they did, and I guess we're talking about it a little now, but I mean, this is ridiculous. But here's another issue. So this band Trapped, you know, they support Proud Boys now, and they're racist assholes, and you know, F them, and I'm not listening to them ever again. And this is probably the last time.
Not that you ever listened to them.
But so the news about this is that the band was kicked off of Instagram, and so was the lead singer. And so, well, now I don't know if this is good or bad in general, because
that's what I was thinking too, because they were in their like last attempt in their messages that got them kicked out of the platform. Here's why I was thinking, is this good or bad? Like, obviously their message is bad, but they're trying to get people into other platforms where it's completely unmoderated. And I'm like, ooh, like that's even worse, because then I don't even know what goes on there and what kind of people, like I don't know. But I mean, I understand why social media platforms, they do have rules for a reason. And they do have to enforce them from time to time.
And that's the thing. So I mean, there's so many questions I just don't even have answers to. You got a private business running a social media thing, and they have their own rules, like you said, and if you don't follow them, you get kicked off. So then another platform of social media, they have different rules and they don't censor at all. That's kind of like, we just, anything goes. Is this good or bad? Like, should companies be held responsible for what people are doing on their sites at all? Like, at all?
So
it seems like there has to be some line, but then on the other hand, if you're like, Proud Boy, we can't, Proud Boys are all banned. Well, does that mean the far left-hand people are banned also, and the only thing we're getting is this narrow slice of information for the rest of our lives, and these people that are way off to the side, they just become completely radicalized, and now we're just living in this crazy world where it actually grows. The problem grows because you're allowing it to grow by not allowing it into what regular people are involved with.
Right. And also, and to, add more perspective to this, is those decisions are really difficult. And the reason that they're difficult is, there's all these legal things, but also the type of speech that offends some people is completely non-offensive to other people. So some people get offended by like pro-gay marriage speech, and they try to get that taken down off of online platforms. So and once you start, you can't pick and choose what you leave up and what you don't leave up and so on. And also, once you start taking stuff down, that actually exposes you to more legal risk, because now you're like establishing a pattern that I'm somewhat responsible as a company for what people post on here, as opposed to like, hey, this is all user generated content. Also, this is not legal advice, by the way. So these are really complicated things, and something, I'm always thinking about in the back of my mind is like, sometimes you're like, people are excited about certain things being taken down or censored, and there's pros and cons to it, because if one thing that you like can get taken down, then something you hate gets taken down, it means something you really like could also be taken down. It's just, there's pros and cons. And for some people, it could be like, they don't like violence, but they like nudity. And for some people, they don't like nudity, they like violence, or they want religious expression versus whatever, political. Like, there's a lot of different things. So I was also thinking that is the problem with this, is there's more and more than secret communities that are not enforced by any sort of reasonable human beings who try to at least think about it in a nuanced way, or, think about it from both sides, or being consistent with how they remove or censor or the content. And now you have like anything goes, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, it's almost like by pretending there's not a problem, by kicking off people that have these insane views, just flat out, you're not flagging it, you're not attempting to provide information saying that this is offensive, you're just flat out banning it.
Right.
So you're pretending it doesn't exist by just completely disregarding its existence, and then it's just growing in the background in a way that it may not have even grown if it were allowed. I just don't understand how if you're do that.
Yeah, and I think the way that I think I can try to explain how we're thinking about it is, even if you're on Facebook, you'll still see some content that would talk about how Proud Boys are assholes and this is wrong, and at least you'll come across those things, even if that's not something you agree with. You'll probably see other opinions. Whereas if you're on some racist social network whatever, you're not going to see the other side of you and how wrong that information is and how wrong those opinions are.
I mean, you're like activating a cult and giving that cult the ability to grow in power by that's why I'm just like, man, I don't really know the answer.
I don't either.
But to me it just sounds like banning it outright, just flat out banning it, is not going to in the end, over the long run, with the big picture, it's not going to help anything.
Right. But then and these companies are also criticized when they don't remove content. So then there's also a lot of that. Like, people don't think about it. I think a lot of people don't understand that removing something from a social network does not remove it from the world. Like, you can remove hate speech, but hateful assholes are still living among us. So is the problem removing their accounts, or do we want to deal with the larger problem, which is even harder to deal with, of like, what do we do with these people instead? Like, what is the solution? That's even harder than the answer.
Yeah. And then the accountability, I think you mentioned it a little bit, is like, if you're on a mainstream social media site, there is some sort of non-anonymity behind it. There is somewhat of a identifiable person behind those comments. So as a person making those comments, it might cross your mind, oh, maybe I should consider other things in my mind before I post this. You know, I am going to have consequences for my actions. Whereas if you just remove that person and they go somewhere else with their other buddies and start a hate group, they're just going to increase the hate.
It's problematic. So, but
I'm interested in all thoughts about this one. I've even heard some weird things about, like, social media being designated as a utility. Even though it's a private business, it's still somewhat public responsibility of the company in some way, like the same way the energy companies are a private business, but they have responsibilities to the public and somehow. And I'm like, I don't understand how that's going to work. And what's that mean? I guess there's more to come on this, because this is the concepts are confusing me from the start. I don't have good answers. You know, in general, free speech, I'm for it. But like I said, then there's consequences of dealing with these freaking hate groups, and I don't know exactly what to do.
And honestly, I think social media companies do spend a lot of time thinking about these issues and trying to deal with them. And a new group that is completely not used to this type of a situation, it would take them some time to understand how to navigate that space. It's a very complicated space for many different reasons.
Yep. I'm just trying to wrap it up in my mind. I'm thinking, like, suppressing information, not good.
Right.
Counterpoints to arguments are good.
Yeah.
So I think for me right now, I'm like, I don't want to ban information in general. I don't. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
But.
Well, you want to talk about some other topics? More punk?
I saw that Less Than Jake is doing a stream on December 11th. So we'll post the link to that. That might be cool to check out. I think Riverboat Gamblers are actually doing another stream in December, now that I think about it too.
The Less Than Jake stream, I think it's they just released an EP, and I listened to it today, and I'm pretty sure that the activity from Less Than Jake is in response to, well, not just COVID and we have to do something to make money, but they also have a new EP to promote. And so I listened to the songs, and it was, it's ska punk, just like it's always been. There was one song that was kind of more pop punky, and the other, it was like 3 songs or whatever. And the other ones were straight up ska punk, just like Less Than Jake always is. I always think of Less Than Jake as a band that, I've seen them live and prefer them that way than listening to all the albums. So someone like live streaming of ska punk versus actually being there for ska punk, for me, is a huge difference, because I don't listen to ska punk casually in my home. It's only fun when you're there and you're skanking like an idiot. The dance is so stupid. You feel like a moron, but then you go do it and you have your little fun. And I guess that it's like a party. Ska punk is like party music. And if you're, I guess it would be like listening to EDM at home with no drugs or people around. And do people do that?
I don't know. I do not know what.
I don't. Well, do you listen to ska punk in your non-party times?
No.
Yeah, man. So I'm interested to see what a live stream of ska punk is
Yeah.
with crowd interaction. If it were all like, does everyone turn on their webcams and skank?
Ooh.
You know, everyone does like a little thing, and then they have like the
Cool.
Zoom window of like 100 skankers, and everyone's skanking. Like that would be fun, right? Maybe.
So emo night is doing a Home Alone themed emo night, and
What?
I think it's supposed to have like an interactive. I'm gonna do this, by the way. I don't even remember what it is.
Is this link available? We're going to link it to this thing.
Yeah, we're gonna
we'll
link
definitely
this.
be talking about it
Me
after
and Colin
we see this.
are really big Home Alone fans.
Home Alone.
It's like the best. It's the best thing about Christmas, which is not a holiday I enjoy.
It's the only good thing about Christmas.
It's the only good thing about Christmas. Yeah.
If I don't get my yearly dose of Wet Bandits, then I am one cranky Scrooge.
Yeah, so that should be cool. And then we have some new releases we wanted to talk about. First one is Refused, just out of the blue for me, because I didn't know they were going to do this, but they put out an EP. They had a single come out a couple months ago. We talked about it, but now they had 5 songs.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good.
That's right. Like Born on the Outs was like my pick of the week a couple weeks ago, and they released that as a single, not as a whole within Malignant Fire. Now it's incorporated within the Malignant Fire as one of the 5 tracks. I think, like I was saying, Refused is a big resurgence for me. I probably like them more now than I did back in the day. Because really, I mean, I hate to say it, Shape of Punk to Come, it's really all about the new noise.
It is.
If you take that song off that album, I mean, there's Liberation Frequency and, a couple of other ones.
You like the newer stuff because it's more like a song structure.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
So I'm like, I like Born on the Outs, man. That song's awesome. And, I like their new album that they put out earlier. I think it was late 2019 probably is when that one came out. But I'm like, Refused now are better than ever. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, they're definitely a band that, they were broken up for a while and now they're back, and they're definitely not worse than they were before. Like, it's a band that
Who does that?
You don't just go and see them because you're feeling nostalgic for the new noise. Okay. Like, you go see them and it's actually like an awesome show. We saw them at Punk Rock Bowling a couple years ago. We saw them at their own concert. This year was the last concert we saw for near foreseeable future. So they're just amazing. So, yeah.
Can you name off the top of your head a band that broke up for a decade, puts out a new album, starts playing shows, and you thought to yourself, wow, this is just as good, if not better, than their previous output? Off the top of your head, is there someone? I can't either.
Yeah. Usually they're like maybe almost as good if you're lucky.
Most of the time, it's crap, though. It'll be like, oh, they must have ran out of money, and now they're going to have to go play the state fair and put out this crap album.
I guess Thrice, since they've been back, their albums have been better than some of the ones pre-breakup. However, I still like the first 3 the most. So
did they really break up for that long?
They had a hiatus. Maybe it wasn't 10 years. Maybe it was 8 or something.
Was it?
7 or, yeah, it was a while.
What? Okay, was it in between Earth, Wind, Fire, and Water and the one that came after that one? Is that the break? Or did they break up? Beggars, I believe that album was called. Earth, Wind, Fire, and Water, like the 4 Seasons or whatever that was called. Then I believe the next album was Beggars. Was there an 8-year gap between that and Beggars? I guess that's my question.
2-year gap.
Because that's why I don't remember it being that long. So that's why I was not going to allow, I wasn't going to allow that, because I kept thinking, Thrice, they keep putting out stuff.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe because I'm such a big fan, it felt like it was 10 years. Because I was like devastated when this happened.
I'll give you a Thrice one though, because the Earth, Wind, Fire, and Water was like their 4th or 5th album.
Yeah. So the
Beggars was way better to me.
So Alchemy Index came out, looks like 2007, 2008, and then Beggars 2009, post hiatus. They kind of came back strong. Came back strong.
So how many bands have their 6th album be one of their top 2 greatest
Yeah.
albums.
I mean, not
I
many.
can't think of anybody on
Exactly.
that one either.
You know
so,
who needs to do it next, though?
who dat?
We were just talking Distillers. Where
God,
is
yes.
the follow-up Distillers album? Like,
I have the scoop. I had the scoop. Last episode, I announced it. Their new album is done and it's in the can. They're gonna release it. And
that's right.
Brody says it's their best thing, although what band doesn't when they're promoting a new album? But
Well, that is when you write it, you don't write it to be like, oh, hey, Colin, let's do our most mediocre podcast episode for next episode. Like, you don't sit down with that intention, of course.
Yeah, true.
You know, I don't think they're lying. Like, I think that's what you just spent time and energy working on.
I cannot put all my hopes on the Distillers album being the greatest thing of all time because there's just too much on the line to put that kind of stress on it. You know, Brody had the solo album and Spinneret. And I thought both of them were mediocre. So I want to temper my feelings.
Yeah.
Like, are we talking Sing Sing Death House?
Yeah.
Here's what it's
going to be. I'm calling it right now.
Don't hurt me.
It'll either be like the most amazing Distillers album, or you and I are going to be disappointed. There's only two ways this is going to go.
Oh my God, there's so much pressure.
It is so much pressure.
It's hard for me as a fan.
It is. People don't know the things we do, okay? The stress we live in our lives.
It's funny, like, I'm freaking out over a new release by a band I like. My whole life determined. It depends on whether this album is good or not. It's too bad. I've been burned so many times.
One time, Offspring, they like wrote a song that was terrible, and I like cried when I heard it. I was driving probably to your house, and then that came on, and I was like, what is this? And I just started crying. I was so bummed.
As I recall, I heard Defy You, and I went, it's over. That was it. I like heard Defy You and went, well,
that was the song that made me cry. That was the song.
And it's not, the song isn't even that bad. It's just a regular rock song. It's just a rock song.
They were just so good. Like,
I'm like, no.
But yeah, I totally heard Defy You driving to your house, and I just started crying.
And you know what? You probably knew that I was going to be disappointed. Maybe. And that made it even worse because you're like,
and now
I'm going to have to listen to this guy moan about Defy You.
And then he's not going to want to go see Offspring with me. I'm going to have to be like, please, let's go. Just, I knew all the drama. And I'm not a crier, by the way. So the fact that I cried, that's actually means something. I don't just cry over, you know, any whole thing. But Defy You.
That's when Offspring was like, they dropped a tear for me on that one. They're just no longer one of those bands I'm always gonna go watch. Now they're like,
I know. I still struggle to convince you to go.
Not even the album. Not even the album. Just one song that's mediocre. Not even bad. No. That's how finicky we are.
And I don't even think I've the only time you've seen Offspring since is when they played with like a festival with like Bad Religion, and there's like a bunch of other bands. Like, I am still trying to get you to go to see Offspring when I
know it's hard because I'm like, oh, they're probably gonna play Defy You. And then I was like, I can't do it.
See, so I knew it. It was just
they've had like 5 albums since then.
Yeah,
like,
doesn't matter.
I don't even know. I don't even know the albums because I didn't buy any of them. It's so
Colin never forgets. Oh, I just looked it up. It looks like it came out in 2001.
Oh my God. Yeah, we go from seeing the band like 30 times live to I've seen them once since.
Yeah.
All because of Defy You. Wow.
Oh,
if you're a fan, you understand.
Yeah. All right.
And I'm a fan of the next band, Radkey. Yeah. This one came out of nowhere. I was like, oh man, I hope there's some new stuff I want to check out. Radkey delivers. Thankfully, I saw them at last year's Punk Rock Bowling.
That's right.
They were opening for
Murder City Devils.
It was freezing outside. I don't understand why. This is the middle of late May.
Because it's
late May, and it was like 50 degrees outside, which is way too cold for me. And I go into the club just because it's cold.
Yeah.
And Radkey comes on, and they blow my mind playing like Ramonesy, Misfitsy punk.
Yeah.
Super awesome. And I'm like, this is the awesomest band of punk rock bowling. I love this band. I'm buying their stuff right
totally
now.
buy their
I
CD
bought their CD. I bought the re-release of the CD because I wanted the 2 extra songs on it. And this is awesome. And so then I'm like paying attention to Radkey a lot. And then they release a bunch of singles that are not punk enough for me. And I'm like, oh, well, Radkey, they were good. Now they're just, they're okay. They're just a band, an alt rock band.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And even in quarantine, I think they've had 2 singles this year. And I was like, oh, Radkey, man, you were going to be my new band. And I'm like, now you're just a band. But now, new song, Underground, back to being good.
Awesome.
And I'm going to talk about my my grudge later, because I will have a grudge. So it's not Radkey specific.
Okay.
But I will just say, thumbs up for Radkey. The song Underground just came out on Spotify. That one is prime Radkey. Nice. Almost my favorite song of theirs, but anyway, whatever. I also have more songs I like. Are you ready to hear more?
I am ready.
But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Panic Shack. I don't really like it. This song.
Oh, I thought you were saying you don't like it. That's the name of the song.
Oh, no. I like the song.
Yeah, I was like, why are you talking about it then? That was so funny.
The song is called I Don't Really Like It by Panic Shack. It's like, it's a punk song. It starts off really slow, post-punky, where you're not, it's like, this is not even punk. Slow beat, very bass driven, just thump. It's just a slow thump. And it's like that for 2 minutes. And they're just really repeating, when you look at me that way, I don't really like it. And they do it for like 2 minutes. And I'm like, these lyrics I understand, because this is simple. And then at like the halfway part, they turn it into a punk song.
Oh.
It's just the same exact thing, but like 3 times as fast. And I'm like, yes, now this is good. The slow build worked for me. I like this band now. I'm so happy with this song. I don't really like it. I feel like the lyrically, it's probably about sexual harassment or something like that. But nevertheless, I was just into it completely.
Nice.
And that will also tie into my grudge later.
Oh, wow.
Not specific to Panic Shack, but I'm going to be on the Panic Shack bandwagon, I'm pretty sure, someday.
Oh.
Another awesome song I heard this week, Anti-Flag, A Nation Sleeps. They re-released like the second part of their album, because they released the first part of the album back, I think it was in February. And this is just a continuation of that first album. And I swear, I did minimal research, but it said it was Universal, like their record label.
Oh.
So that threw me off completely as well, because, they did go on a major label a while back ago, and that was a big thing. Then they went back on independent, and then they did completely DIY. So maybe that's something to look at or not. I don't even know if I care. But nevertheless, the song is called A Nation Sleeps, and it's awesome. It's a hardcore,
and it's
top shelf
album, 2020 Vision, right?
Yes.
And so what was weird is you mentioned there's a new Anti-Flag, and I went to check it out, but I found A Dying Plea was volume 1 and 2. There's like 2 songs with Anti-Flag and a bunch of other artists. It's like a huge collaboration.
Yeah.
So
that's not the one that I liked, though.
Okay, yeah, I noticed that, but I was so confused because I'm like, I think, I don't know.
They have a lot going on.
I don't know if they have that much going on, or if we're just missing things and being oblivious, or a combination of the two, but apparently they just had a lot of music come out this year.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I recommend their album over the collaboration song, which is not as straightforward punk or rock or anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't go through that one at all because I was busy with A Nation Sleeps.
I see.
And I'm like, this is the Anti-Flag that I like when they are being hardcore punk that's catchy, which reminds me more of Underground Network, which is one of my favorite punk albums.
That is a good one.
It's so crazy when you have a band that makes an album that's so good. They become one of your favorite bands. And then the rest of their career, it's like, nah, but you're still a big fan because Underground Network is still awesome. No matter
Yeah, at least they did not write Defy You or that.
Oh, yeah. See, they didn't do that. So.
That would have been it for you.
Oh, man. Yeah. And then finally, my last one was Snake Eyes, the song called Skeletons. You know, similar to Panic Shack, it starts off as real slow. It's kind of just like a bass thumper, just kind of moving the blood slowly through it. And then that one actually never really gets too punky. It's like post-punk, kind of grunge punky, and it's British, so they have the accent, and it sets a vibe. It would be a good song to turn down the lights to and get a good vibe on. I don't know if
post-quarantine song.
Yes. I wouldn't say that Snake Eyes, they're going to be this punk band. I mean, this is their debut EP. It's not like punk like I like. It's not a hardcore punk album. It's not fast punk. It's just, I like the song Skeletons, so I'm throwing it up there.
Nice.
And I'm going to be on the lookout for the band Snake Eyes in the future. And that was the new music this week.
That's the new music.
Yep.
And then we also wanted to do a holiday gift guide. I know that a lot of people that put out content always do gift guides. And the reason they do it is that's how they make money, because they set up links that if you buy stuff, you get money. We're not actually making money, but sometimes I do look for a couple of gifts for like the 2 or 3 punk friends I do shop for. We don't even do Christmas presents with me, most of my friends, but a lot of my friends have birthdays in December. So I am always on the lookout around this time of the year for gifts. And we can just go through these pretty quick, but I'll also continue to post some ideas as I see them on our Instagram page at Almost Punk, because some bands are doing cool bundles and merch things and so on. So the first one is Punk Rock and Paintbrushes. They promote art from a bunch of punk musicians and creatives, and they have their first book coming out. I think it's just on a pre-order right now, but it's called The Insides of Artists Written by Outsiders. You can pre-order it now. Another one, I really like The Hard Times, and they have a bunch of merch that they sell. They have a t-shirt that says "Fuck Birds," which is one of my favorites. And then they have another one that I really like is "I don't need to listen to punk to be punk" shirt. If it's satire. And they also have the book, which is about their first 40 years of the Hard Times. And I saw someone else showed me their copy and it looked really cool. So that would be a really good gift for somebody who's into punk and likes jokes and memes and such. And then I also wanted to mention HE Creative. They do some books and prints, and they have a pretty big Instagram following now. They do really cool artwork. It's all punk themed and various punk subgenres. I also found Linda and Jonny Ramone have a collaboration with Happy Socks, which is actually like a really kind of a fancy-ish sock company that I have heard of before. And so they have a couple of socks there if you have a sock lover. And Distillers have a Jingle Bells Bitches sweatshirt and a couple of other sweatshirts for Christmas, which are pretty cool. And then we talked about Oakland Coffee on our couple of episodes back, but that's always a good choice if somebody's a coffee drinker. They have a bunch
and it won the taste test.
That's why I recommended this one and not the Fat Wreck coffee. It did win the taste test that when we tested it against another brand, so it's okay.
So you give your good friend the Oakland Coffee, you give your mediocre friend the fat coffee.
But they cost the same, so.
Oh, it's true.
Maybe if they're not a good friend, you can just give them Folgers.
How about if they know their coffee, you get them the Oakland Coffee?
Yes.
If they don't know their coffee, you get them the fat coffee.
Yes, that's perfect. I like it. And then Anxious and Angry have some pretty cool ornaments that they've posted. And then I saw somebody showed this to me, which you're going to like. War on Women is selling cross-stitch patterns on their Bandcamp. So that's pretty cool.
No, wait, Hold on. Shoot, I was trying to click the link and it just didn't work for me. Is it a pattern that you finish?
Yeah.
Do you do the cross stitching?
Yes, you have to do the cross stitching.
Oh
but you buy
my
the
goodness.
So the pattern is like the rose with teeth.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that says like, don't let the bastards grind you down.
I haven't done cross stitching since 4th grade. Whoa.
Ooh.
I'm gonna have to
Are
look
you going to do it?
Well, it's a gift, right? I'm not gonna buy it for myself.
But yeah.
Well, it's $5. I could actually afford that one.
Yeah, it's a good quarantine gift.
That's cool. All
yeah.
Right. And then I found Aggronautix Throbbleheads. These are the funniest Throbbleheads. They had like Jim from Pennywise gets his own Throbblehead. I just thought that was so bizarre. Not that Pennywise isn't a big band, because I mean they've probably sold 1 million or 2 albums. I just the lead singer, he looks just like a regular dude. He's just a guy that wears pants and a black T-shirt. But there he is. It's a Throbblehead of a dude with a black shirt, pants, just a microphone and a baseball hat. Hey, Jim from Pennywise. Okay, I just thought.
Oh, and they also have other bands. If that's not the one you want, they have Descendants. They
got Milo,
Rancid. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know about that. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought they were cool.
That is cool.
Price wise, I don't know. I mean, they're collectibles, so they're $35. Life moves on, and I have to give up. You know, inflation happens. I understand, but what? Okay, how about you have a friend? They're not like your best friend. They're like a good friend. What is now the price? If it used to be $19 in like 1990, what is now the $19.99 gift?
I feel like if you're spending around $20, if they drink, you can just buy them alcohol.
Okay, but let's say you're at a company event where you have to like bring a gift that's supposed to be decent, but it's not for a specific person, but you're just, you know.
Oh, White Elephant? Most places do like a $20 White Elephant.
Okay, so it's still the same. Yeah. It's just now you only give that kind of gift to people you don't like. So the prices stayed the same, just the people have gotten worse.
Is that what it is? Man, I guess what I try to do for gifts as my strategy, which isn't the money strategy, but I either try to get people practical stuff they'll use or something that is kind of nicer than you would buy yourself.
Okay.
Oh. And it doesn't have to be like it's not a price specific thing, but maybe, you know, like maybe if they like candles, you get them like a nicer candle, or maybe if they like T-shirts, you get them like a hoodie, or, you know,
that's a good tip. Like, I wish I'd have known that earlier, because I never thought about like you get something a little better than you would get yourself.
At least that's my strategy, because I feel like if it's something useful, they'll use it. And then sometimes you want something, but it's like a ridiculous price to pay for that specific thing. Like AFI has a candle.
Well, of course. Want, so. Probably made out of smoked cloves.
Yeah. So something, you can even get them something practical, or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Okay. Good tip.
Yeah.
Oh, grudges.
Oh,
I almost forgot. Yeah, okay, real quick. I mentioned it a couple times earlier. I had this grudge I was going to mention, and this is what it is. Songs that are released as singles with no album followed up after. Mm-hmm. It ticks the hell out of me now, because I get pumped. Like, for instance, Radkey, good example. Mm-hmm. This is like the 3rd single of quarantine. These are months apart. One song. So I'm like, I'm willing to accept a single in anticipation of an album. So like, give me 1 or 2 songs. I'm getting pumped. I'm ready for the album. And then I get the album and boom, yay, I'm happy. Everything's wonderful. But instead, bands now, because economics suck the way they are, they just release 1 song at a time, months apart. And that bothered me, not only on Radkey, but that other band, Panic Shack. They have that song, I don't really like it, but there's like 3 different singles over the course of the past couple months. And I cannot get into the band if I don't have music to get into. I can't just be a fan of your band for 1 song. I can be a fan of 1 song. So in the end, I'm like, I like your band, but I don't even remember what your band is. I just remember one song. And then I forget about it. You're out of sight, out of mind, goodbye. So bands need to, if they're going to put out these singles, compile them, add songs to it in a reasonable time frame, and allow me to enjoy the band as a whole rather than this stupid one song at a time BS. I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
Rant complete.
So I am guessing that this is happening because of COVID, because you need to kind of keep your audience engaged. So you need to drop some sort of content periodically. But if you do it all now, like, when are you ever going to record again? When are you going to have money to go to the studio? When is the studio open? So maybe that's going to take care of itself once, you know,
I'm willing to compromise.
that is over. I'm hoping that that is the case.
I'm willing to compromise 4 3-song EPs over the year that you do an album, or 3 4-song EPs over the course of a year, or one album in one single. Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to go halfway here, but this whole 3 songs over 9 months, album never comes out, and then the year after that you release an album that doesn't have those songs on it, and now you're at a different place in your musical artistry, and it doesn't even sound like the cool stuff that I liked in the first place, and now you're playing some mellow indie rock and you're no longer a punk band and I don't like you anymore. See, I never got the coalition. I've been that word up right now. It's good. I didn't get that. I need it.
Yeah. My grudge is birds, because all I do now is hike, because there's not like a lot to do. And every time I go hiking, a bird craps on my car. So it's constantly, they're just constantly doing this to me. So I'm kind of starting to hate birds. And then, as I mentioned, the Hard Times made a fuck bird shirt. And I was like, oh my God, I so agree with that shirt.
Someone is spying on you.
And that opinion piece. No, everything I complain or talk to my friends about becomes a headline on the Hard Times. It's kind of, at this point in my life, I can no longer remember which one of us made which joke first. Because like I'll complain about something, and then the next day my friend will send it to me, and I'm like, whoa. Like, yeah, they're totally inside my head, or I'm inside their head. I don't know. Like, I can't even blame them. Like, it's just great minds think alike.
Yeah, I was gonna say, at least you're in a good place with the Hard Times. Yeah. Because it's good. So that's before I forget, speaking of good publications, shout out to Razorcake. Get a subscription to Razorcake for yourself, or get a subscription for your friend. Affordable, great magazine. And that's how I actually.
Yes, that was another good gift idea.
And that's how I actually found the Aggronautix Throbbleheads. It was an ad in Razorcake when I was just flipping through it. So, Razorcake, check it out. Gift. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh yeah, one of my friends got it for me as a gift. I think she got one for her, one for me, and so that was a good gift.
So get your Hard Time shirt, fuck bird.
Yeah.
And then get your Razorcake subscription.
Yeah, and if you don't like fuck birds, there's other cool shirts they have.
Cool.
There's a lot of political and all kinds of humor, and I think
read the Hard Times for the articles as well, because it's funny. Yeah,
they are funny. And I think that's about it for us this week. You can email us at almostpunkpod@gmail.com if you have any other gift suggestions, or if you have any bird stories or any other grudges you want to share with us. You can follow us on Instagram at almostpunk, and a couple other places I will straighten away shortly.